ask the question. And then if any of the panelists feel super called to answer that one, raise your hand or just unmute yourself and start talking. If nobody says anything, I will just call on whoever I want and put you on the spot. So all of you have been super successful over the last year. What is one of the biggest changes you made when COVID hit that you feel has contributed to your continued success? So what have you done to adapt? And do you think you'll continue it once the pandemic is over? Mitchell Jones, let's go to you.
I'll speak. So much of real estate is stepping out of your box and doing things that can feel extremely uncomfortable. And mine was learning how to really pick up the phone, make those calls, and hopefully everybody's read that book, Ninja Selling, but it talks about Ford, and it says call people and talk about their family, their occupation, their recreation, their dreams. And it's interesting because the business really started coming, because before the pandemic, almost all of my business came from open houses and foot farming. Well, that went out the window when the pandemic hit. And so I knew I had to do things differently. And every day, blocking that time, making those phone calls, sending a follow-up note, it was painful, uncomfortable. It's still to this day, some days is, but then after those calls are made, it feels so good. And I'm not begging for business. I'm just talking to people. I'm getting to know them better. I wish I would have done that years ago, but clearly that's how things have changed. And I will definitely continue that, Felicia. It's just something that, boy, wow, it's opened up a lot of doors for me.
That's so beautiful. Yes, I feel as though so many agents have been like, oh my gosh, open houses were stripped from me, and now I don't have this way of getting business. But that is the perfect example of another way you can just pivot to find business elsewhere. If one stream gets taken away, you have a few others that you can rely on. Andrew and Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to piggyback right off that, Mitchell. You're spot on. The Ford conversations for us. So again, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. It's just a guide to help you walk through conversations with people. I mean, we're salespeople at heart, and so I think our conversations pre-COVID were very salesy. You're digging in to find those real estate needs, and then as the pandemic hit, I need to switch these conversations to how are you doing? What's going on with your life? How has work changed? How have you been affected? How can I help? And I'm sure all of us as agents, we've got a million friends on Facebook. You've probably seen people posting some of those type things. But we saw our conversation switch to finding out how they're doing, what's changed in their life. And kind of to Mitchell's point, those conversations, they're going to lead to little pain points that have to do with real estate. Now, don't be the salesperson that jumps on it right away as soon as they say, oh, my wife's pregnant. You're like, congratulations, are you buying a house? Like, we know that leads potentially to something there. Or, hey, now I'm working from home and homeschooling. We don't have to go straight into real estate, but we found that having those conversations helps us identify those pain points. And then you can follow up later and just go, hey, a week or two later, hey, I was thinking about you. I know you said things are getting tight. Hey, I've got a house, or have you considered this? But you don't do it right in the moment. You make those conversations about them, and those deals come after that.
Beautiful.
You know what, if I can comment on that too, I personally have been in a transaction with Andrew, probably one of the easiest, nicest, kindest transactions I've ever been in. And Andrew and Justin, they exude authenticity. And you know what, that's what clients want to see. They don't want to see our falseness. They want to see life as we are, but really pulling it out of our clients and genuinely caring about them. And Andrew, you are the poster child for that.
Jennifer, I'll go to you.
Well, I could completely piggyback on exactly what they're saying. I think that the 2020 definitely forced many of us to get out of our comfort zones and actually pick up the phone and make those calls. I totally agree with what they're saying. Another thing on that is I also found, 2020 people were wanting those deeper connections. They were needing us to be there for them, not just in real estate. So, sometimes I would see a client whose child, maybe is going through a cancer treatment or broke a leg or something, and I would send a gift just randomly. So, just gifting those clients, watching what they're doing on social media. They're watching us all the time, but, just watching them as well. For me, it was a lot about going deeper into my database, deeper relationships. Like I mentioned, sending a random gift, seeing a hobby that they enjoyed, or whatever it was, but just making those deeper connections, which most of my business is done by past clients, sphere of influence, referrals. So by making those deeper human connections leads into the clients referring you to more clients, and those are the kind of connections that you want. Those are the leads that you want. Those are the referrals that you want. And with that, it was also database as far as realtors. I always tell people, and a lot of people think I'm crazy when I say this, but realtors are in my database too. So my sphere has grown tremendously in my Coldwell Banker family as far as agents that are referring out everywhere, the Bay Area, Orange County, or, Oregon, all over the place. So just really making those connections and digging much deeper into those relationships.
Wonderful. Yeah. It sounds like you're making it more about the person and not about yourself. You're not selling them. You're really, getting to know them as a human and what they're going through. And interesting right now, because we have this shared experience, right? We're all experiencing this pandemic. It's hitting people in different ways. But we can talk about those things with our people and make sure that we're there for them, which is really important. Shoshana, what would you like to add to this conversation?
So I don't have a hard time reaching out to past clients, and I'm very, very into creating relationships. So when this first happened, I thought to myself, okay, what can I really do to expand my reach? So I dove into all of my systems. I had my husband quit his job, join my team. He was an operations manager for Amazon, running 300 people. So I figured he could bring that to our team, dove into our systems, and really to the business itself, since I already, my business is very personalized to begin with. So basically we just dove all in. We did not let fear get in our way. We actually enjoyed being able to comfort people in times where they were fearful. So that's really where we spent the first half of the pandemic, is diving into our systems.
That is so important. And I think no matter what level you're at, whether you're new or you've been around forever, figuring out those systems, getting into a habit, learning what works best for you. It's just like an ongoing thing that we always have to be thinking about and tweaking to suit the market and to suit our own business needs. So touching on the topic of systems, does anybody want to go into like any of the systems that are working for them right now? Like did you have an overhaul of your systems, Shoshana?
So honestly, to begin with, when the pandemic first hit last year, we didn't have our own CRM that was dialed in. So my husband set all that up. We use Sierra Interactive. We also incorporate YLOPO, which I really love. We went from CTE for tracking to CSU, which is so important. So if anyone's not tracking their numbers, you have to track your numbers, like especially for new agents starting out. You have to figure out what your formula is, how many phone calls it takes to get to an appointment, how many appointments it takes to get to an escrow, how many escrows it takes to get to close. So really tracking your numbers has been a game changer, because we figure out the mathematical equation on what it takes to be successful and reach the goals that we want to reach.
That's great, because then you can be like, okay, this phone call is basically worth $700. I better pick up this damn phone. So that's a really good tip to track everything and go back. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that?
I'll jump in on that. I'm a systems fanatic as well, so I'm geared a little bit more like Shoshana's husband in that sense. But
I'm geared more like Shoshana.
You look like her.
It works that way, yeah.
So as you can tell, we have a great sense of humor. And I like people too, but I also like systems. So I'm huge on the systems piece as well. And what we found is you know, as you read in the bio parts, we're passionate about the client experience. And we know that's what leads to the repeat and referral business. So we did spend a ton of time, obviously, as COVID changed things. Like, you went from the busyness of your office and the hustle bustle of every deal and just being caught up in that to going, I can take a little bit of a step back and work on the business rather than in the business. And so a huge piece for us was, to Shoshana's point, Sisu. Not just for numbers tracking, we use it for that. It's a huge system that can be used for any number of things. And I'll actually be jumping on a panel with Brian, the CEO, here next week to talk a little bit more on Sisu, because we're one of their power users for it.
He gets like one phone call with Brian, and here we are buying an 80-inch TV to replace all of our whiteboards to throw Sisu on and everything imaginable. I'm like, oh
All in.
Yes, yes. But so Sisu, we're passionate about it because what it does is we've built out a task system that has allowed us to make sure every client gets the same experience. And what I would say to agents here is, I spent 200 hours or more basically taking our entire buyer seller processes and building them into lists. And then we built that into Sisu, and now our team admin, basically as soon as an escrow opens, she gets hit with a task list of, here's what you do, here, send this email out, and it's all triggered off of different dates in the transaction. So you put in when your termite inspection is, when the home inspection is, when those contingencies are due. You put all that stuff in Sisu, and then it just spits out for, she logs in every single day and goes, here's what I have to do today.
Even from the appraiser, right? And reminding the client, send the email, hey, your appraisal's tomorrow, make sure your CO2 detectors, smoke alarms, those things, all the normal stuff is where it should be and up to date. Like, the client is never behind on the transaction or wondering what the next step is. They always have that anticipatory next step, and it gives them a lot of comfort.
Yeah, and so what I was getting to with that too is that might sound daunting for people on here to go, hey, 200 hours, I don't have time for that. I'm running my own business. I'm managing deals. What I would say for you is that was done over a very long period of time. 200 hours went into it, pretty focused. But what I would say, just to get started in something like that, is you don't have to buy Sisu to do that. But what you ought to be doing right now in your business, even if today's your first day, is you need to be writing down what you're doing every step of the way. That was the biggest piece of advice I got when I got into real estate, was write everything you do down. We're really good at keeping in our heads, and we think we're really good at it. And like, oh, I know right before the appraisal, I need to do this and that. It's going to be a disaster for you someday, especially once you start to scale. So just write things down, put it all in a notebook, even if it's just chicken scratch. And then someday, when you can get an admin, or when you've got time, you can then implement that into a system that makes a good process. So start today, again, even if it's your first day, writing notes down on exactly what you do every single step of the way, even the minutest little detail.
It matters.
It matters.
And I would speak to my fellow high D, high I folks in their group that are like, we're people persons, not systems people, right? But at the same time, take that 5% of like steadiness or compliance that you have in your personality and put it onto paper. Really, that's what you need. Like that is all you need. As long as you can capture that and put it on there, you're freed up to sell, you're freed up to help more people, help them better. And you're not running around like a chicken with your head cut off going like, I'm a people person, I have no idea how to run my business right now. Like we don't have to hide behind that. We can buckle down, do some systems, and then let your personality shine, because you're freed up to do that at that point.
Are you guys like speaking directly to me? Did you guys like research my business and now you're like,
Actually,
this is my pain point right now, because I'm getting my systems organized, and I'm totally just a people person running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But something else I wanted to touch on that you guys mentioned was making sure the client experience is the same for every single client you have, regardless of the race, location, purchase price, all of those things. That is the way that you create a super inclusive business. You make sure each client has the same experience and that it's fair and equal. Mitchell, I'm going to go to you. It seems like you might have something to add here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the systems thing. And I can tell you, my joy in this career is being invited into people's homes, being asked to hold their puppies and babies. And that's all I want to do all day long. I'm a disaster when it comes to organization. And I finally came to a place, I've been told you need to have, an operations manual together. You need to have these processes into place. And I've just been running around as an individual agent with my head cut off, feeling like that. So late last year, I hired a full-time assistant who is also a licensed agent. And I had just been collecting in a folder. I'm way more primitive and not as sophisticated as Andrew, Justin, and Shoshana are here. But I started an operations manual, like a folder, and I just started putting notes in there, Post-it notes. And I basically threw it all at her at the end of the year. And I said, when it's time for photography day, we need a memo of what they need to do to prepare. Lights need to be on, all different things, clear the clutter, all that. When you go into escrow, what to expect, because I do have it in my head, but it's not always as methodical as it should be. And we don't always have the time to deliver on that. So I think absolutely getting those processes into place. And even if you're just starting your business and it's new for you, put those into place, because the business will take off if you're doing all the right things. And then all of a sudden you're really caught and trying to catch up, and you feel very disheveled. So absolutely agree. And just start an operations manual if you don't have a refined system yet.
Thank you. Yes. So we are talking a little bit about the client experience. And I know right now for buyers, it's really tough in this market, right? It's so competitive, and it's just been busy, right? So what are you guys doing to help represent your buyers in the best light possible when you're out there competing? Does anybody have any tips and tricks onto how to get your buyers' offers accepted? Shoshana.
I just want to say that market fatigue is a real thing. So right now, or let's just bring it back, maybe even a few months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, you meet your clients, you take them out, you find a couple houses that they love, you write the offer, you get it accepted, easy day, right? Then obstacles between. But now it's best to set the expectation for the clients right off the bat. Hey, we're gonna be super close over the next 30, 60, 90 days, right? We're gonna start this journey together. Buckle up, I'm gonna be your seatbelt. We're gonna take this ride together. I need your full trust. I promise you that we will get you to the right home. We're gonna write offers. They may get accepted, but my guarantee to you is that when we do get the offer accepted, this will be the right home. And you set the expectation there so that they don't experience what they're naturally gonna experience, which is defeat, exhaustion, and whatnot. You keep your energy up and you reassure them. That's been a game changer for myself and my team. It keeps it positive, it keeps it fun, rather than feeling defeated. Like if you don't get 5 offers accepted, you just get them excited about, okay, we're getting closer.
Remember we talked about this. Yeah. So they don't feel like they're left in the dark. They know what to expect up front. And they're not just shocked at how competitive it is because you set that standard in the beginning. Jennifer, we're going to go to you.
So I have always been predominantly a pretty strong listing agent. So I'm going to speak a little bit from the listing agent side. And I've been also transitioning my business as I hired a buyer's agent. So we're doing a lot more buyers. But honestly, in this market, have your stuff together. When you do submit an offer, follow the instructions, follow the directions, make it super easy for the listing agent. When you're writing your offer, fill it in properly, have all the boxes checked, fill in the listing agent's information on the page, page 8 of, the RPA. Have the desktop underwriting approval there, have the pre-approval, have the proof of funds, have the letter from the buyer if that's what you're going to do. The more convenient that you make it for the listing agent, the better you're going to present your buyer and their offer, especially in this market where we're being inundated with unskilled professionals, to be honest. There's a lot of them out there. Have your lender call the listing agent and reassure them and have the conversation. You pick up the phone, call the agent, build some rapport. Don't just send your offer and forward it from DocuSign with no introduction. That's literally a red flag to a listing agent. So, have your ducks in a row, be professional. It's pretty simple, just scan it all in one attachment. Don't have 12 attachments with your proof of funds and your pre-approval letter. So just be the professional, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Take the things off of the listing agent's plate. Don't make them counter you with silly little things that you need to edit in the contract.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what needs to go into a contract, have somebody else read the contract for you. Give it to your broker and have them proofread it before you send it over to that listing agent so you don't look like a ding dong. Mitchell,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to you.
You know what? I love what Jennifer just said, and she is absolutely spot on. And I think oftentimes, when we're representing the sellers, we genuinely care about them and their welfare. And when an agent on the other end hasn't even taken the time to find out what's most important to that client, they're already off the table if you're presenting 10, 15 offers. And so many times maybe it's most important to my seller to get 30 additional days in that home after we close escrow, or maybe it's more important that they close quickly. And we can't just assume when submitting an offer that just because it's the highest price, that's going to be the right scenario for our seller. So absolutely, Jennifer, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know what? Reach out to that listing agent, find out what's most important, and that will help ensure that your offer has a better chance of getting accepted in a challenging market for buyers right now.
Yes, even if every listing agent says highest price, that's what's most important. It's all about the price. At least you're showing that you care and that you asked. And that's what it's about, is creating that rapport with the listing agent. Andrew and Justin, we're going to go to you.
Yeah, so I'll jump on the listing side of it real quick too, and then basically I focus on the listing side. Justin runs the buyer side of the business, so I know he's got comments on that. But just to jump into the listing side, what we teach our agents, and it comes up every single week, is you're auditioning with the listing agent from the very first moment you're communicating with them. So we use showing time. I'm sorry if you don't like it. The instructions in the MLS say that you need to follow that. And if you send me a text message asking me to show it, you're showing me that you're not following directions right from the get-go. And trust me, we're seeing 20 offers on every single listing right now. But I do remember that name that didn't follow the instructions and called me 15 times and did all those things against what's there. So
stood up front with the CBS code.
Yeah, I don't have the CBS code. I didn't get you the PED form. It honestly, I know everybody hates filling out PED forms right now. It's really difficult on the buy side to line up 20 different showings and have all those PED forms. I've really loved it because it has shown us the ones that are paying attention and doing things the right way. And I know that if you didn't give me the PED form and you called in front of the house because you didn't have the CBS code, and I found that those are the ones that I've had trouble with in escrow. So the ones that are following those instructions up front, you're auditioning from the very moment you start. So keep that in mind from the very first communication with a listing agent at this point.
And I would say on the buy side, I think having relationships is more pivotal than ever when it comes to getting offers accepted, right? Because you need to know, not just, there's a lot of mirage offers out there. We all know that, right? Everyone wants to waive appraisal till appraisal comes in low, and then all of a sudden it was like, oops. So you really need to know the agent on the other side and what they're going to do to stand up for that and make sure that the client and the offer go through the way that they're supposed to throughout the entirety of escrow, and holding up their word, quite frankly, when they put pen to paper and said they were going to do it and perform on it. So buyers agents, right? The one deal you do, just know, to Mitchell's point, when she's like, Andrew, I love that transaction with you. Very easily, if it didn't go well and Andrew reneged on whatever he said he was going to do, Mitchell has a different opinion at that point, right? And we all remember that, whether it's a year or 6 years from now, you know those things. And unfortunately, the client suffers there, but representation matters. So buyers agents, make sure you have a good representation in this market more than ever, not just because it's the right thing to do, but your client's success is hinging on it. But the second thing I would tell you, for us people persons, have a system, and a system is as simple as don't do offers different every time. Obviously, if you're listening to a listing agent and you need to tailor an offer custom, totally. But when it comes to your templates, do you have a template for how you have an offer template for when you send it off to the listing agent? I do, our team does. It's right click, offer template, because it's not fake. It just helps you make sure you're not forgetting anything and you're representing your client well. So, we're in a fast-paced business. So being able to click offer template, make sure you attach these things, send your video, send whatever it might be, you're going to have better results. You just will. It's scalable and duplicatable.
And just to clarify, he's going email template
There you go.
to the listing agent, not zip form template.
Sure, which we have those too, but yes.
Yeah.
Right. And you said send your video?
Yes. So I do videos on ours. Our team does videos. It just helps you connect with the listing agent in a different way. So
Send a video in your offer.
Yep.
And it's, can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
Or do you not want to give away your secret?
No,
You look like you're embarrassed or something.
Yeah, no, I slipped on it. But yes, we absolutely do videos for every single one of our offers that we send out to people. And I've had listing agents go, that's amazing. And I've literally had one in particular I'm thinking of late last year that I did the video, and she, we were with neck and neck with 3 other offers. It was a $1 million+ deal. And she just calls me and goes, I just have to tell you, my client de facto picked you guys because I forwarded on your video and your entire offer template over to the other side, the offer we're trying to get accepted for my sellers on the property they're buying, to show the other agent and go, see, this is who we have on the other side. We're going to be just fine.
Oh, wow.
And they accepted their offer, and we got our offer accepted. So she goes, my clients didn't tell you yet, but like they accepted your offer just because we repped you out to the other side. So
They used yours to get theirs accepted. That's awesome. Wow, what a creative idea. I love that. Do any of our other panelists have anything that they wanted to add to this conversation, or we're good to go? All right, is anybody doing, we're still touching on the buyer's subject. He was just talking about submitting a video with an offer. Is anybody doing virtual showings at this time? And if you are, do you have any tips and tricks and advice for that? Because I know some people really struggle with being on video and doing walkthroughs with clients. Mitchell.
I would just say it's painful for me to this day to be on videos. I do it because I have to for my business. But I think the more and more you try it, be okay with laughing at yourself. Part of this, you have to have a good sense of humor. But I've had so many times where I feel uncomfortable, where I'll just say to the client, you know what, and I'm 95% a listing agent, but if it's a past client and I have a buyer that, that they're my buyer and I'm trying to help them, I will in a heartbeat go into that home, just do FaceTime with them. And you know what? It's just like, get over yourself. I can't change that I'm only 5 feet tall. I can't change that I have a big mouth. I can't change that I'm old. I can't change these things. And I finally have come to that realization. That's just not going to change. So you have to just figure out how to do the best you can, get comfortable in your own skin. And sometimes it's taking a risk. I did a whole video, and maybe a lot of you saw it on Facebook when this pandemic first started. It was upside down the whole time. I just learned how to laugh it off. You got to just let that go and just get comfortable. But part of this business is being uncomfortable to become more comfortable.
Yes, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is anybody else doing virtual showings and using any other systems besides FaceTime? Jennifer?
I haven't been doing any virtual showings personally myself. I was at one of my listings the other day, and we did a FaceTime showing with the buyer's agent's client. So, it's absolutely possible. But I just wanted to reiterate kind of what Mitchell said when we talked about stepping out of our comfort zones, in 2020 when this all happened, and kind of pivoting and transitioning with virtual tours and videos. I'm super uncomfortable being on camera. I hate the way my voice sounds. I hate the way I look. I hate the way my hair looks, and all of that kind of stuff. I think most of us do, but we have had to be forced to step out of our comfort zones, get on video. I kind of fangirl over Shoshana a little bit because she's killing it right now on the video, but honestly, it pushes me to do the same thing. Pushes me to get out of my comfort zone. It's an uncomfortable thing, and we just step out of your own way and just get out there and do it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So I wanted to just encourage everybody. We all feel uncomfortable. We all feel the same way. So just keep doing it, guys. It'll get easier.
Yes. Shoshana, please share with us.
Yeah, can I just add something on the video? So I don't think there's anyone in the world that hates video more than myself. And people are like, but you do it all the time. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But I hate it. My heart like just goes crazy. I start sweating. My name's Shoshana and I whistle when I say my own name and it's super embarrassing. But what I find is if you just get through the discomfort, people love you already. And they think you're funny and they think you're great. And it's a great way for people to get to know your personality. None of us are perfect. But when I first started doing video a couple years ago, I swear I couldn't even talk. It was so embarrassing. And I just forced myself to do it every day and not post it and just do it. And then I'm like, I'm wasting all of this stuff. So I just started posting all the time. And it's actually fun now. I still sweat. I still whistle when I say my S's. And it's embarrassing, but you just got to do it. You got to do it.
Just got to say, how many of us on here whispered to ourselves Shoshana's name to see if we whistled it?
I wanted to, but I knew I wasn't on mute, so I didn't do that. But yes, that is so important to just keep practicing and putting yourself out there, and to remember that those following you, especially on social media, they already know what you look like. So like, what's the harm in showing them a little bit more what you look like? And it just helps you get a lot more comfortable. And when you're comfortable in that uncomfortable space of being on video, it actually helps a lot when now you're direct face-to-face with clients and you've gone over this a million times over video, and now you feel very confident speaking directly and looking at somebody's eyes and doing the same whole like spiel. So I love where you guys are going with this. Andrew and Justin, do you guys want to add anything on the video topic?
Yeah, I think just in a digital age, right? I think it's gotten people more comfortable. If anything, even when the pandemic has some, I don't know if it's kind of an official end or whatever it might be, but even when everyone feels like we're towards the tail end of that, or it's in the rearview mirror, hopefully, I think video and virtual showings are here to stay a little bit more. Obviously, the perception was it wasn't a real showing before, but I honestly had, I definitely had my first escrow of the pandemic was someone who had not seen the home ever because we weren't able to go into it. They allowed me in, so I did it, and they put an offer in sight unseen technically, but these guys were in their under 30 demographic, and they were so comfortable with it. There was not even like a doubt in their mind. I think they would have closed escrow if I had to force them to go see the house, So it definitely, I personally saw more of a consumer perception shift in the market, with video being a more normalized thing, and it's a real showing now. Now, I know on the listing side, there's a little bit of a misconception there too. So if you can see it in person to write a strong offer, you should. And if they can't, obviously video is second best there. But in many contexts and cases, especially on maybe states or counties that are a little more locked down, or having clients that are a little bit more uncomfortable with it, or have, we've had clients with serious medical needs throughout this process as well. That's a great avenue, and you got to get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Buy a gimbal, buy a stabilizer, going back to, we try to create a wow experience for our clients. Buy a stabilizer, invest in the most minimal video equipment you can. But it's going to make your client's experience a lot better when it doesn't look like you're, moving around, and off-roading. So.
Yeah, and to Justin's point, like if you are writing an offer where the client hasn't been able to see the property or whatever, make sure you're having those conversations with the listing agent and explaining the situation so that they don't have those doubts in their mind, and you can get ahead of it, so that you're presenting your offer in the best light possible. On the topic of video and virtual things, let's go into virtual listing presentations. Is anybody doing virtual listing presentations? I know a lot of sellers are still comfortable with us coming through their homes, walking through it, meeting with us, but in certain cases, that's not the case. Or maybe you're starting out doing virtual and then you meet in person. Let's go to Mitchell first on this one.
Actually, another area that was very uncomfortable for me a few months ago, and now I'm doing it on Zoom. I actually spent the additional money to get beyond the 40 minutes of Zoom. I invested in my business, and it's actually been fun. Especially some elderly folks, they're learning how to use Zoom as well, and to have those conversations with them. And one question that I will ask them, they're saying, well, we're thinking about listing. We want to feel how would we feel about, people coming into our home? Can we allow that? And we start going down that road. But one of the questions that I'll ask them will be like, hey, talk to me about the sniff test. And they're unarmed, they don't understand what I'm asking them. And I'll be like, hey, are there pet odors? Does anyone smoke in the home? Because these are things that we can't tell virtually. And I'm happy to hire one of the best videographers in the business. and we can have a virtual tour online. Everybody can just virtually tour your home. Absolutely. I do that for my clients. But most importantly, if we can't get into that home, we have no idea about the sniff test, and that could cause the deal to go south if there's a walkthrough or an inspection. So it's kind of fun because clients don't expect to hear that from me. And then they'll be like, oh, well, we have 10 cats. Well, okay, let's talk about this. What are you going to do? Would you smell it? Do you want me to come over there with you? I will wear a mask and all of that. But I think these virtual listing appointments have been good. I actually have had now virtual listing document appointments where they queue it up on DocuSign, and then I walk through each form with them. It really is amazing. I mean, I'm proud to say I've had quite a few clients in their mid-80s this year who have figured out how to text, how to Zoom, how to DocuSign. It is really pretty neat. And it's forcing us all to do some things a bit differently. And I view it as a positive. I think, hopefully improving our skills.
Totally. Yes. Let's go to Andrew.
Yeah, totally. So we started, I mean, when the pandemic first hit, absolutely virtual listing appointments were a huge thing. And I mean, I loved it because I just had everything sitting on my computer. Like we're big fans of scripts, and my listing appointment is very scripted. The fun part about that was I was on Zoom and I had my script like literally in front of me, and they couldn't even see it. So I loved it because it was just like, man, I was right on point. But we were just joking. One of our first virtual appointments was with a guy on Zoom, and he had fun with his virtual background. So he had Tiger King as his virtual background.
Laying in the background.
So it was pretty funny. But when things first hit, yeah, we did. I mean, I think we sold 3 or 4 listings that we actually never even stepped inside of. We did it all virtual with the client. They walked us through, we did our notes and kind of walked through what an avid looked like with that.
Staging it, like staging analysis, all those things, like walking through the house and just taking notes. And honestly, that's credit to our clients too, right? Because they rolled with the punches and they were so flexible. I mean, to get the results that we didn't have to be in person to get them was absolutely just an amazing partnership between, I think, our communication of what was expected and what was needed, and then their absolute flexibility to make it happen.
Yeah, and then just seeing that you have to shift. The market at some point is going to change. You have to be willing to shift in changes. And so obviously 2020 brought us, hey, now we need to go digital, virtual. We need to figure this out. But those who are going to thrive in real estate are those who are willing to adapt and shift. And probably not a ton of us on here have been through a big market change, but those things will happen, and you have to be able to adapt to them. So whether that's jumping on something virtually or changing your strategy with your buyers or sellers, you just have to be mindful of it and be the first one to adapt to that. That was probably our biggest thing. Was I remember when we basically packed up our office here and went, all right, we're going home to work from home. What does this look like? Kind of Justin working out of his garage.
I got kicked into the garage.
He was working out of his garage, and we were Zooming and FaceTiming with our team like every single day just to go, how are we going to change this? We cannot let the business stop right now. And I think we all saw very quickly the business didn't stop, especially for those who kept adapting and changing.
Just keep swimming, Dory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think looking at the upside too, I think we can't just look at like, this is big and scary and oh my gosh, I got to do this for my clients. Yes, you do, and it's good on you for doing it. At the same time, look for the upside, look for the advantages. You saved time, right? Your listing appointment was no longer 45 minutes out to Moreno Valley, and listing appointment 45 minutes back or an hour in traffic. It was an hour flat, right? So there were some really big upsides to some of those things as well. Andrew's point, having scripting on the screen for himself, being completely in the driver's seat. So I would always encourage you in a shifting market, look for the upsides and look for, the obstacles, the way, kind of a Ryan Holiday thing. Look for where the obstacle becomes the way and exploit that upside.
Great. Thank you for sharing, guys. Jennifer, would you like to add?
Unmute. We've only been doing Zoom a year, so
Speaking of virtual listing presentation,
right? To be honest with you, so I have a virtual listing presentation prepared and ready to go. I absolutely 100% did not need to use it at all. All of my listing appointments have been in person. Everybody's been comfortable. You know, my business didn't really change that much as far as in regards to that. It didn't really slow down or change too much. You know, I don't know why. I can't answer that question. You know, I hired, you know, going back to stepping outside of your box and stuff like that, I incorporated much more high-end photography and videography into my listings and into my listing presentation last year when we had to go more online and more videos and stuff like that. And then so I was doing on camera introduction of the house, which wasn't something that I was doing in 2019. So you know, that was one of the ways that I evolved, and I will not change that. I think in this ever-changing and growing technology industry that definitely splurging on the higher end video and higher end photography is so important and pays for itself and is worth every penny. And you're going to need that, honestly, as a listing agent, you know, when you're going to go up against other agents. So that's a little tip.
Now is the time to upgrade.
Yes. And there's so many options, you know, it doesn't have to be $1,000, you know, it can be $200. Right. So there's definitely something for everyone's budget.
Right. And to your whole point of like doing listing presentations in person, have you experienced your sellers being nervous, or like how have you been managing their nerves when it comes to having people who walk throughout the house, if it's, you know, stagers, photographers, videographers, showings? Are you doing anything to help ease that stress a little bit?
Yeah, so when you go on the listing presentation, I mean, definitely you're there and you're interviewing the client as much as they're interviewing you. You're getting to know them. You know, are they super COVID, you know, friendly, or are they super COVID, you know, panicked? You know, you kind of got to gauge the situation. And, you know, obviously we're wearing masks, and my conversation with the client is, you know, it's about making them feel comfortable. So my selling style is much more as a individual, custom tailored experience for that client, whatever it is that they want. You know, if they wanted, you know, at the time, if they wanted hand sanitizers, if they wanted boots, if they wanted gloves, if they wanted masks, you know, whatever it was, you know, we've got these cute little baskets and put it all together. You know, some of them still want that. You know, it just depends. You know, some of them aren't as concerned anymore, but it's just about having the conversation. If I needed to be there for the showings, you know, and that's not super convenient when you're carrying a lot of listings, but, you know, you make it work with your team members, you know, just depending on it's about making the client feel comfortable, whatever it is, you know, the PPE, you know, stuff, or, you know, if they wanted more virtual type showings, definitely. So,
and also like presenting it in a nice way with a cute little basket.
Yeah, you know,
listings where there's just booties laying on the floor, like thrown around, and I'm like, this is $1 million house, people. Shoshana, would you like to add anything about either virtual listing presentations or managing sellers' expectations and helping them ease through the transition?
Sure. So any way, shape, or form I can do a listing presentation. I don't care if it's on the phone, on Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it is. If I'm getting in front of them, or if it's in person, I am 100% in. I just leave it up to my clients, whatever they're comfortable with. I'm 100% ready to go and ready to rock. So it doesn't matter to me if it's virtual. It's actually more convenient if it's virtual, because like Andrew and Justin were saying, like, I can be at so many places. I mean, I can be at home and also be at other places. And like, if you're friends with me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see like I probably Zoom 10 times a day, right? Because I'm always posting about it. Oftentimes those are just ways of connecting with clients, whether it's getting the new listing, coming up with a game plan to get their house sold and whatnot.
All right. We have a good question that's in the chat that I want to point out. Anyone utilizing professional coaching individually or for their teams. I just recently started coaching, and I would love to hear what our top agents have to say about it. Andrew and Justin, we'll start with you.
We do. We coach with Tom Ferry, as does our team. I joined coaching about a month after I became a licensed agent, just recognizing my deficit and that I needed some help. So it's done marvelous for me. It only works as much as you're willing to be flexible, right? But it definitely helped prepare us for things like the pandemic, because our coaches were always pushing us to do things we didn't want to do that would help our business. So.
Yeah, and I was the skeptic when it came to coaching. I looked at Justin and went, 1 week in a real estate, you need coaching? Come on, what's going on?
So I take him to a conference with us, and we go to a Long Beach conference, and we're sitting around the table. And Andrew, obviously for both of us, like when you're local, right, it's the biggest person in your marketplace, even if it's a small pond, is the biggest fish in the market, right? So we're looking at like the leaders in the valley, which we're blessed to have around us for sure. But then to go to this thing and like the GCI around the table, the gross commissions income from people just at lunch with us was like $11 million annually. And it was like, oh my gosh. And so that night, Andrew's like, I think I should join coaching.
Yeah, I mean, it's for anybody at any stage, right? And the earlier you start, you're getting a leg up. So there's also a question for you guys. If you want to answer it directly in the chat, that would be lovely. Thank you. Mitchell, let's go to you. Oh, you're muted. Thanks.
I have done coaching on and off. I had one coach that didn't really have a comfortable relationship with the coach. Of course, coaching is an uncomfortable feeling. What I do recommend is, I hope when this pandemic is behind us or we resume some form of normalcy, I always believe in going to a minimum of one conference a year, if not two. In fact, that's where I met Shoshana last year, right before all this pandemic started. We were at Tom Ferry together. But I always have taken a pearl from each of it. And I do fully believe in coaching. You have to be right for it. I'm struggling with right now. I think I'm better off being an individual agent with a full-time assistant. And my desire is not to go over 40 transactions a year. You know, I like to be more on the front line. So my model might be a little bit different, but by all means, I think coaching is good. There were a couple of things that I really got out of coaching last year. One was that track and measure. Really made us really see where is your business coming from? Where do you need to grow? What do you need to do differently? And then another thing that my coach taught me was, you know, we can learn all these things, but we have to implement them. And sometimes we can spend so much time getting caught up in all the semantics of doing it that the coach said, and Tom Ferry said, done makes more money than perfect. And so I learned I really need to just execute on some of these things that I've been thinking about in my head for years, and it really has helped and has certainly paid off. Which, by the way, just in short, I see you there. You were at that Tom Ferry event too, where Shoshana and I were.
Can I just say that, Mitchell, I can tell that you are somebody who really knows yourself and reflects on your business and knows where, I mean, you're setting that goal of like staying under 40 because you know that's where you want to be. And you don't have this desire to be this crazy big team, you know, just knowing yourself and knowing who you are as a business professional is super helpful. So I'd encourage everybody to dive deep into their own personal, who they are as a person and who they are as a business owner. Cool. So Shoshana, do you also coach with Ferry?
Yeah, so I would like to add that coaching is a very personalized experience. I started off coaching because I felt like I'm always trying to I always kind of do like a self-analysis, like what more can I be doing? And I think all of us as realtors, we ask ourselves that every day, like what else can I add to my business? What else can I do here? So I asked myself that and I'm like, okay, I keep talking about coaching. I'm going to try it. Worst coach you could ever imagine, like ever. It was a wild experience. However, I'm not the type of person to just give up. So I decided to continue my contract and switch coaches, and it's been way better. I will say that, you know, just between us, and honestly, I don't want to talk you in or talk you out of coaching. I feel like it's a very personalized experience. I get the most value out of masterminding with people, other realtors, people that are making way more, like crazy amounts of money, people that are making the same money, people that have been doing it forever, that just started. So getting connected with groups that you're interested in, masterminding has been a huge value. I do enjoy using Tom Ferry's ecosystem. As far, we have a lot of people moving out of California. So when you have people that are paying for coaching and you can get to know them through the ecosystem, you can really trust your clients are in the best hands. So that's really where I found the most value, is my clients moving out of state and being able to trust them with other Tom Ferry coached agents.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, the relationships that we build with other agents is super important. And Jennifer, would you like to add anything about coaching?
Yes, so I do have coaching. I actually do it through an individual in my own company. And I think it's so important. I've been doing it for probably 5 years, and it's kind of been a game changer for me to take my business to the next level, just because it keeps me accountable. And you know, you get back on, I do it twice a month, and you get that phone call, or we've been doing it virtual through Zoom, and you know, I'm nervous, I'm sweating, I'm like, okay, did I accomplish what I was supposed to do? Did I do all the stuff? You know, so it definitely holds me accountable to put the items into action. I highly recommend it. You know, there's definitely, whether you're with Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, or an individual within your company or whatever, you know, there's different financial levels, you know, that you can, you know, do. So, and I know that there's also a lot of great agents out there that would help out, you know, whether you reached out. Like Shoshana said, you know, that's actually how I met Shoshana, was through a mastermind where another realtor local got a bunch of us together, you know, before the pandemic, and we were, you know, just, you know, strategizing and bouncing ideas and sharing ideas. I think that's so important. And that's where I get so many of my good ideas. And I hope that we get back to that type of stuff soon. Yeah, so, you know, and on that note, you know, if nobody is paying for coaching or they're not able to afford it, you know, download podcasts on your phone. Tom Ferry has great free content. Tons of free content out there. Brian Buffini has the same. I mean, there's tons of free content out there. So just feed your mind with the good stuff.
Yes, coaching, masterminding, attending conferences. Yes, I miss being with people in person and learning from people. And to Mitchell's point earlier, taking in all that information is sometimes like you get all this excitement going and you're like, yeah, this is great. And then you go home and you don't implement anything. There's no point of you learning it if you're not going to implement it. So one of the things I created was a rule. If I attend a conference, when I get back, I have to implement at least one thing that sticks with me throughout my career, right? And I attend a shit ton of conferences. So now it's getting like a little bit too much. Like, okay, I can't have that many skills. So I want to go to Andrew because it looks like he has something he wants to share.
Yeah, just two things on the coaching piece. I would say if you're in coaching, or if you do get into coaching, to Shoshana's point, like, don't be afraid to switch coaches. You're not locked into that experience. I think
they work for you.
They work for you. You hired them. If that coach is not a good fit for you, and honestly, we've been through 4, that's okay. And you may have a coach that works really well with you for a year, and then it's time to move on. Like they've got their bag of tricks and their advice and all of that, and it's okay to move on. Like, it doesn't mean they did a bad job. We had one that we didn't think was great from the start, and we switched pretty quickly, but we've had several that have helped us get to where we are. So I'd say if you join it,
yes,
don't feel like you're locked in there.
There is someone for everyone.
Absolutely. And then outside of that, if you're not a part of coaching, or, you know, $600, $800 a month, whatever it may cost for some of those entry level positions, like, if you can't do that, you need to find someone to hold you accountable in the business. Find a mentor, reach out. I would say, knowing most of the people here on the panel, reaching out, going, like, I know early on, I reached out to Mitchell Joes. It was like, hey, Mitchell, I need some help with this. And she was willing to share some information. We're the same way. So reach out to people, find a mentor, find somebody that can help hold you accountable to some of those things, find a partner in the business, whatever it is that helps move you along. Because that's really key. You don't do it on your own. It's too hard.
You can even create your own mastermind groups. And it doesn't need to be like a room full of like the top best agents in the area. Like it could be somebody at your level. It could just be people that you appreciate and you like their business practices. Like start your own group and people will be appreciative that you included them in that. And it'll just be this little community, and what a beautiful thing, right? And we all could use a little bit of community, especially right now. So we have a question in the chat. I submitted one of 18 offers. Sounds familiar. All countered with buyer to submit best and highest price. This is totally a pet peeve of mine because personally, I believe that that's not a real counter offer. A counter offer should be specific and have something in there, but I know that it's just a part of the game right now. People just saying like, try again, not good enough. So what are you guys doing to protect your buyers from bidding wars? And I know some of us work with buyers, some of us work with sellers. I'd love to hear from Justin on this, if he is adding any special, I mean, you know, we don't want to get into the area of like broker advice. Like you don't need to tell us what your language says, but is there any advice that you could give to Robert Dean in the chat?
I'm going to give everyone the hard truth right now that I tell my buyers. If you don't want to get in the bidding war, then you shouldn't buy a home right now. Quite frankly, that's it. So if you're not ready to compete, like I tell our buyers, I go, look, to be totally honest with you, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, what I'm looking for in this conversation right now for you is much to the listing point, the listing agent point of you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. To Jennifer's point, look, you should, if you've been in the business like 5 minutes, you can raise your hand and get 10 buyers right now that want a house, right? Like more buyers than ever. There's like 38,000 pre-approvals in Riverside County. So that's nuts. You can get a buyer. Are they motivated enough to wade through this? Like to Shoshana's point, are you priming that pump that, hey, this is going to be a 60, 90-day thing potentially. We could, through our relationships, get you something sooner, but at the same time, you got to be in it for the long haul. So what I'm looking for is motivation. Mr. Buyer, I'm looking for a 9 out of 10 at the very least, because you got to bring your A game. So yeah, it is frustrating when you get kind of a lazy counter offer for 18 people. We're not that nice. We usually counter like maybe the top 3 or maybe just one person that really showed it, to be totally honest. So 15, 14 people aren't getting counters at all. But if you got that scenario, if it were me, I would rely not so much on the relationship part of it, because you specifically said an Orange County listing, which means you're probably out of the area anyway. So you're kind of behind the gun. So what I would do is probably try to make up some lost ground and go to the agent and just say, hey, I just wanted to follow up real quick. We're absolutely going to get you the highest price we possibly can. At the same time, what else would your seller be looking for that they haven't seen in an offer yet? Maybe that is to someone else's point on here. Maybe it's more than just price. Maybe they are looking for 60 days, or maybe they are going through chemo and they want an extra 45 days in their home uninterrupted because they're immunocompromised. We don't know those things. So reaching out and asking those questions is really, really key for you if you're looking for an inside edge over highest and best price. Offer template, again, same thing. You're relying on your personality and the fact that they should hopefully want to work with you with what you've shown them, right? To Andrew's point, you've auditioned now. Unfortunately, they gave 18 people the same job versus like 3 or 1. But you got to lean on your personality. You got to lean on your professionalism. You have to lean on your rapport, or try to create some rapport out of thin air to get an inside edge. That's really where it's at, guys. Like everyone's throwing money at stuff, like making it stick on the wall. It's way more than money at this point. And you got to get that coached out of your buyer's mind, highest and best. Like you're going to be in a bidding war. It's going to be a frenzy. But it's my pledge that we're going to put a personal spin on it to make you stick out outside of the money, because everyone's got money if they're shopping right now.
Right. And to your point, it's all about setting that expectation with your buyers. So much of their experience is just what you give them, right? It's you're the handler of their experience. So if you're setting their expectations at a realistic level in the beginning, they're not going to be surprised to get a counter. They're not going to be surprised to be in a bidding war. They're going to be like, yes, this is what you told me what would happen. What they are going to be is surprised when you get their offer accepted in, 2, 3, 4 offers. They're going to be like, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought, because you set the expectation that we're going to be in a bunch of bidding wars. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, and just from the listing side, I mean, I would say, like I said, 20 offers is really common on a property right now. I probably hear from like 2 or 3 of them that even call me to ask me what our client's looking for. And some of those phone calls are, hey, what's the price that's going to take to win it? That's probably not the question you need to be asking. You need to think outside the box. Price is like almost secondary right now, because we all know you're having to go above. but who's getting those terms?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But who's giving you those terms? And so the ones that are winning right now are the ones going, hey, I mean, I had somebody that I have a great relationship with submit an offer on listing just this last weekend, and they never called me, and they wrote in a 21-day escrow, and my client needed a 30-day escrow and a 6-day rent back. And then when I replied with, sorry, your offer wasn't accepted, it was like, oh, what? And I'm like, but you never called me. You wrote in a way accelerated escrow, and it freaked my sellers out, and they didn't even want to touch it. So you got to make those phone calls, and asking the price question. That's not the right question right now. There's so many other pieces that you can write in there to make it attractive.
Now you can ask the price question after you have a smart conversation about everything else. And they're much more willing to have a conversation with you about price after you've talked other things, so you've respected the rest of the process.
Beautiful. I love it. All right, let's talk about some things that you guys might not feel like you're so great at right now. Let's talk about your struggles. I want to hear about what each of you are struggling with right now in 2021 and how you plan to overcome it. Who wants to go first? Who wants to share what they're struggling with, what their pain point is, what they know they're going to have to go through this year? Shoshana, let's go to you.
I'm trying to think, well, what am I not good at? Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's hard, right? We're like, what are you talking about? We're amazing. We're all so great at everything. But no matter what point you're at in your business, there's something that you want to work on. And I would love to hear what you guys are working on.
Yes, and I'm awful at this. I am awful, like self-admitted awful. So my husband calls me the fangirl, right? Because I'm a huge fan of everyone I meet. Like I fall in love with them. They're amazing. And I'm like, this person's amazing. We have to like hire them right now. So my biggest struggle is finding the right hires. So I've gone through one admin, amazing person. She's great. It was not the right fit. I was quick to hire. I need to hire another admin, and I'm really, really bad at taking the time to figure out what I really need, how I can express that versus just wanting to like bring everybody in and just be a part of the team and have this big giant group of people that don't have the same vision as I do. So my solution to that is that I put my husband in charge of doing that. I fired myself from doing any of the hiring. I begged him to let me do like the first interview just to like prime him, you know, just because I like to meet people. And then he takes over the second, and I don't have anything to do with that because I'm really, really bad at it. So that's my biggest struggle right now.
Yeah, thank you for your honesty and your authenticity. I don't know you, but I feel like I do now. Mitchell, would you like to add? You're muted again, babe. Mitchell, you're muted again, hon. It's okay.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
There, can you hear me now? Yeah. So actually my husband got his license when I got mine. My husband was fired. It wasn't working out. You know what? We have two very different styles. And, you know, my husband is wonderful for safety reasons when we can do open houses, but we're not doing open houses anymore. So I realized I needed to get rid of that model. I had a very part-time administrative assistant who is amazing because I know what I don't enjoy doing, and I know what my weaknesses are. And one of my greatest weaknesses, I am disorganized. So this past summer, due to family obligations, she actually had to resign. And I seriously went through a grief process because I was used to her as being the glue that was keeping me together. And at the time when I still had my Tom Ferry coach, she said, you know, you need to be very slow to hire and quick to fire. And I think that was the best advice because I started talking to a lot of people thinking maybe it would be a good fit. And I realized when we were talking, and I know my style with high energy and everything, I need somebody who can bring me down a couple of notches and organize me. And I realized I was trying to make something fit for the sake of making it fit, knowing I needed it for the business. And then the right person came along. And I tell you, it is so wonderful. You know, we're working really well together. I mean, she's still new at this, at what she's doing, but she has a lot of experience in real estate, but she is full-time, and taking that plunge to find that right fit from, if you're going to, hire an administrative assistant or an executive assistant, definitely be slow to hire and quick to fire. And sorry, my husband is wonderful. We've been married 32 years, but
if she can fire her husband, we can fire anybody.
we have him working in the casita today on his full-time job, not real estate.
That's great. That's wonderful. Anybody else want to add? Andrew or Jennifer want to add anything?
The best, I was just saying, the best advice that I ever had when looking for an administrative assistant was be slow to hire and quick to fire. I've been through that. I've lived that, and it's absolutely the best advice. So yeah, in 2020, I hired my full-time assistant, and it was probably one of the best decisions that I ever did, because as realtors, we think that we can do everything, take it all on, be running from appointment to appointment. And truly, there's so much behind the scenes stuff that goes on, whether it's marketing or just the actual inundation of the files. So I think that if you want to get to the next level, you do got to take on some help. There definitely has to be some behind the scenes help there. Absolutely. Someone asked in the chat if we outsource our social media, and my assistant handles 75% of my social media. A lot of it's still me personally, but absolutely, that's a full-time job in itself.
Anybody else want to touch on social media? Andrew and Justin.
Yeah, I mean, so social media wise, we've got a full-time marketing coordinator that we brought on this year that handles all of that. And honestly, it's
so nice.
So nice.
Everything you're like, I should have shouted that win. You just see it posted and they say, copy and paste this over. It's great.
Yeah. And she just creates content for the whole team and schedules it out a month in advance, like way beyond anything like any of us could ever think. Like everybody here is probably just on the fly posting like, hey, I'm in front of a house, I should post it. And like, we literally have a March calendar already built out for what every post looks like. It's crazy. But as to, hurdles that we're working to overcome right now in 2021, and I would say this is, I know absolutely without a doubt, this is one that everyone's struggling with right now, is you probably have a few people wanting to sell their homes, but where in the heck are they going to go? Especially right now with the crazy offer situation. A contingent offer is, almost the bottom of the pile right off the bat. So going, I've got 10 listings ready to go, but they need to buy a house and I just can't rightfully get them there. And so for us, it's been getting really, really creative. We've created kind of an off-market list. So we're telling people right now, hey, if you're thinking of selling in even the next 18 months, let me get in and see the house. And we've connected, just looking at our escrow board right now, I think we have 4 deals in escrow where we connected a buyer that came through and described a house with somebody we'd already met. And we said, hey, the seller's not ready to list yet, but maybe if we can make the terms right, we can do that. And so we've been unsticking those listings, which is freeing up, part of that. So that's been super successful. So keep a really, really good list of people you've got that are even on the fence of selling, because we've been able to come to some people and go, hey, I know you said next year, but I've got a buyer right now that basically just described your home. Would you be open to like showing it one time? Yeah. And they turn into deals real quick. So the hard part there is you have to represent your buyer and your seller really well there right now. So we kind of approach it as, hey, Mr. Seller, here's where I would list your home. And hey, here's the market statistics that show me where the offers would end up. So if we can get this buyer to kind of get you what the best possible price would be in a bidding war type situation, the buyers love it because they don't have to compete.
And if you coach the buyer up well, you're going, hey, this house was going to list for 700. You're offering 740. It's a pool home. You're going in at 740 if you get a private showing, and that's just what it is. Do we agree ahead of time that you're going to do justice to the seller and not shortchange them in a competitive scenario by just getting straight to the chase, right? And they do it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So you really have to think outside the box there and come up with some creative solutions. So
yeah. I'd say the second thing would be right? Like if like sign call, there's more sign calls than ever, there's more buyer calls than ever, there's more of those things where there's more buyer demand than ever. So for us, shameless plug, quite frankly, it's keeping up with hiring quality agents who share, to Shoshana's point, share our vision of the client experience and where we want to take them. So yeah, I would say that part would definitely be scaling appropriately to still provide the experience and quality for our clients that they deserve, but scaling appropriately.
It sounds like you hired a marketing person that just does social media, and I'm assuming your marketing materials, or yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got
in the chat.
Yeah, we've got admin that does transaction coordinating, administrative work, and then a marketing coordinator that does all of our, basically, again, to our CSU systems part. As soon as the listing launches, she's got a checklist of here's everything you need to do, and she's
Postcards are flying out, everything's happening.
Yep.
Are you comfortable sharing whether they're on salary, or do they get a any sort of like bonus structure or commission based anything, or is it all salary or hourly?
Yeah, it's just an hourly position. So, but we've got them full time. So, when you're thinking of hiring people, you know, I'm sure a lot of us have read Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's talking about hiring assistants and marketing people. What I would say to you is, like, it is so worth it. It is the scariest thing you're going to do because you go from real estate agent to business owner.
I remember praying that we wouldn't have this transaction amount that we would have 3 months in a row, because then we had to justify hiring someone. I was like watching the board like, oh gosh, we're hitting that threshold that like our coach and some of the other team leads we sat with were like, when you get 3 months in a row this kind of volume, you need to hire someone. And I was like fretting, looking at our board like, did you put another one on the contract? You're like,
It is so scary.
It pays off though, but it's definitely freed us up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your business, everyone will tell you, like, your business just takes a quantum leap from there because you're freed up to do the things that you're good at. You're good at selling homes, and it's not the contracts and the paperwork and the social media posting and all of those pieces. Like, you're the salesperson. You got to get in front of people. And so that's what we have really crafted, is a system where we as agents and the agents on our team, like, your job is just to get in front of people and have conversations, because that's where you're going to win.
And the admin office will take absolute great care of them throughout the process, as do we pop in, obviously.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. This is very timely. I have interviews lined up tomorrow for a virtual assistant. So this is really inspiring to just, buck up and stop, complaining about. It's scary. Cool. So I think that we've given a lot of good info for those that are like on the cusp at this like very like big changing moment in their career where they're ready to make that big jump into being like, taking their business to the next level. Let's bring it back a little bit and get into the mindset of like a newer agent, somebody who maybe doesn't have as many transactions under their belt. I know you guys can probably remember what that feeling is like, and how crazy it is to get into this industry that we all love so dearly. So what advice would you guys give to a newer agent just getting started in the industry? Mitchell?
My thumb pad is really sensitive today. I'm sorry about that. You know what? I have to say, for someone who, when I got my license, the first thing you need to have in your mind is, what is your why? Why do you want to be successful in real estate? What is it all about? My why was, I don't ever want to go back to corporate America again. I don't ever want to have to hire and fire people and bring on teams for new product launches. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be a successful real estate agent. And I honestly believe, I didn't know if I could sell one home when I got my license. And it took me 7 months for my first sale. It took a meltdown in my manager at the time in his office at the 6-month mark, saying, hey, I've been approached by a corporation. I can have a salary again. I've not had a paycheck. I'm used to making a 6-figure income. This is painful. It's humiliating. I don't have a paycheck yet. And thank goodness he said, all the things that we've been coaching you on and mentoring you on, you have been doing. It will hit. And when it hits, it's going to hit like a vengeance. And my first full year, I sold 35 homes. And it did hit. And he was absolutely right. And I'm so glad I didn't give up. But this is someone who commuted out of town for her job, doesn't have any family locally, so didn't have a lot of local friends, didn't have family or anything. And I just realized I need to figure out a way to build relationships and get to know people. And it was like, slow down, get to know people, do the things that they said that you need to do. And so I picked up the phone, called some people from corporate America. Hey, you know what? I got my real estate license. Gosh, do you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest? And I just started asking those questions, and eventually it comes. And I would just say, if you're doing all the things that either a coach or a mentor or a colleague or your manager is telling you to do, stick with it, because it really will pay off. But it can be hard. It can feel horrible to not get a paycheck for a period of time. And believe in yourself and just know that stick with the process and it will come if you're doing the right things. And it's paid off. And know your why. What's your why?
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else have any advice for newbies? How about Jennifer?
Well, pretty much what Mitchell just said. You know, I mean, she made all the good points. So when you're first getting into real estate, you want everyone to know exactly what you're doing. And it's so much easier now with social media than when I first started. You know, I had to handwrite notes and mail them out to everyone. But I don't care if it's your pool guy or your hair guy or your nail person, whatever it is, and it's not just about wearing your name tag, which is super great. And now we all have, swag, which is our hats or our t-shirts or, whatever it is that, says where you work for. But, you want everyone to know that you're in real estate, and you're not necessarily asking them for the business, it's a subtleness, and I also tell, so we have social media and that's super great. And everyone's watching everyone. Everyone's watching what you're doing. So I tell a lot of new agents, if it's not your listing and, you need to promote something on your social media, or, when you were doing just like when you were doing open houses, maybe you don't have a listing, but you're holding an open house for another agent. Same thing with social media. Borrow somebody's listing, share it on, social media. People will start to perceive that you're busy, and they'll start to perceive that you're super successful. And that's not being deceitful. It's just showing them what you do and that you're out there. So, just get out there, contact another listing agent, promote their listing. I don't know very many that are going to say no to that, especially in your own company. But just be persistent. Let everybody know exactly what you're doing, but you're not asking for the business. You're just showing them, that you're in real estate. So
that's wonderful. Yeah. The more that you put yourself out there, the people will trust you and know that they'll just automatically be like, wow, this girl is out there doing a bunch of stuff. Like, they must be reputable. They must know what they're doing. So yeah, and just letting them know that, you are an ethical agent and you're out there and you're working hard, and your friends will want to help you. People love you and they trust you and they want to be there for you. They want you
exactly. I mean, the coaches have said it over and over. People do business with you because they know you, like you, and trust you. I mean, Tom Ferry has said that, Ninja Nation has said that, so it's absolutely true. Just put yourself out there.
Thank you for that. Shoshana, would you like to add?
Sure. So I will say, if you put out 110% effort on anything that you do over and over and over every single day, you're going to be successful. You're starting from nothing, right? Learn absolutely as much as you can. Find a role model, find a team that matches your values, and start from there. Learn everything that you can, be a sponge, and really, really put yourself out there to learn and absorb. So that way, when you have people around you, you want to feel confident that you are the best person for them to work with. Not because you need to make $1 or $10,000 or whatever it is. You have to earn the right to be their agent. And if you have that mindset where you're really going to put them first and learn as much as you can and create that space to be their go-to guide and real estate advisor, that's when it just starts pouring in. So one, get a mentor, join a team, talk with other agents, find people that you admire in the business and copy them. Start living like them. Put yourself in their position. I tell everyone on my team, share anything that I put on there, it's yours. Make it your own. We're a team. We're going to grow together. Get on video. Do social media. I will say, as a newer agent, do not brand yourself too early. If I would have branded myself when I first started, right, I'd be a little bit embarrassed about being here with you guys right here, right now. So give yourself, starting from the ground up, don't expect to make any money for this for 6 months. Everyone on my team makes money immediately. It's just because that's who's on my team. But I tell them, don't plan on making $1 for 6 months. Plan on living poor and really digging in and learning. And that creates their why, because they're trying to get there and learn as much as they can and attract the right business. So that's, I would say, really starting from the bottom and being okay with that so you can reach the top as quick as you can is huge. So mindset, really.
Yeah, totally. And trying not to compare yourself to the other agents out there killing it.
Yeah, who've been doing it for like 10, 15 years are like, why didn't I get that listing?
Yeah.
Well,
you don't have the experience yet, honey. You'll get there.
you
Andrew
will.
and Justin, would you like to share any advice on for newer agents?
Yeah, first of all, you just touched on something amazing that I will share with everybody. Everybody is faking it. So let's be real. You're seeing people on social media, and to Jennifer's point, people you're sharing listings, doing things like that. Like,
And you're like, what's wrong with me?
everybody that you think is successful, like, is probably faking it. Like, don't beat yourself up, right? Like, do your thing, stay focused. I mean, that was probably a big thing for us early on, was like hiding some of that stuff, because you just feel like a lame duck. Like, you see people post, look at this listing, check this out, just sold, just listed, all, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even get anything under contract right now. What am I doing wrong? And then your mindset is just gone.
We sat with a guy who is HGTV show, millions of dollars, and just insane. Like, he's in momentum all the time, real estate, his area locked down. We had lunch with him. He goes, guys, it's all fake. It's all fake from everyone else. Like, look up their MLS numbers. Past that, like, you should have blinders on, and you really shouldn't be paying attention to it, because it's all just noise and you just feel bad. Like, there's no point to it. You know, it's them to their clients, but as fellow agents, we should recognize the game and just take a step back, decompress, and go, like, that's not on me that I didn't sell 85 homes my first year, because they probably didn't either, even though it looks like it.
Yeah. And the hard part for you as an agent is you probably have 1 million agent friends on Facebook. So all you're seeing all day long is everyone touting their success. Nobody's really on there like, hey, lost a listing today. This seller blew up at me and I canceled my listing. So, like, just keep yourself in the right mindset there, going, hey, it's a show. We get it. But especially being an agent with 1 million agent friends, like, don't get swamped in that. The other piece is just when you first get in the business, it's you have to put in the hard work. The basics work. And everybody on here knows that. Like, we did not get here by buying leads and having this magic pill. Now that becomes a piece of the puzzle later, potentially, for you, and as you run a team in that part of it. But, like, the open houses, which may come back at some point, but open houses, cold calls, door knocking, farming, all of those basics, like, you have to do those things. There's no magic pill. Keep your eye off of the shiny new toy. You're going to hear someone in your office that's like, oh my gosh, I just signed up for Zillow and I got 15 new escrows. Again, it's fake.
They got 15 calls, they got 1 escrow.
Right. Yeah. How many did they actually convert? But, like, don't get caught up in those things. There's nothing that can replace the hard work that you have to put in the beginning. And early on, the advice I got, or the question that was posed to me, was, what do you have more of right now? Sweat equity or check equity? Do you have $200,000 sitting in your bank account? And honestly, even if you do, when you first jump in, you better just hang on to it to survive for a little bit. Like, you can't just start funding some of those things to buy those things. So you've got the sweat equity in the beginning. Get out there, do the hard work, find phone numbers, make phone calls. Again, join a team that can provide you some of those things right up front, because, you know, it's something that you have to put the work in.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And being around the people that are going to help you succeed, right? Like, being, whether to Shashan's point, it is a team, right? Having people around you automatically that you're sitting next to, that you're going, like, oh wow, that's what that sounds like. Got it. Let me try that. Sales labbing it, whatever it might be. or finding a mentor who's going to be in the business to do that. I mean, I personally know plenty of people on here that aren't even on the panel that would absolutely answer any questions you have if you reached out to them. Same thing for anyone on this panel. I think we have amazing agents in this valley, more than a lot of the cattiness I hear other places. I'm always really blessed to feel like we sell in a really awesome area in the Temecula Valley. And so just even hearing, Andrew referencing his relationship with Mitchell, 3+ years ago, and he first started in the industry 4+ years ago. Just hearing some of those things, it really does confirm that, like, you can reach out to so many people on here. I honestly find the scariest agent to you and reach out to them. And you'd probably be surprised they'll have lunch with you and answer any questions you might have.
Aw, cute. Yeah, and then I think like one of my favorite things was like listening to other agents talk on the phone in their office, and like hearing the way that they're speaking to their clients, and then thinking to myself, like, how would I feel if I was that client? How would I say this differently? How would I take exactly what they said because I love it, but make it my own and say it in my own way so that my clients know I'm being authentic with them? And yeah, you guys are just amazing. I love all of this advice. If there's anybody in the audience who has any questions or would like to come up to the stage, please just raise your hand, and we'll give you a chance to either ask your question or to share something with the group that you think might be helpful. The chat is also like a really awesome place right now. I don't know if anybody's keeping up with this on here, but you guys are like dropping some dimes in there as well. So does anybody in the audience have any questions or anything that they would like to add? Jenna, are you seeing any hands raised?
I don't see any hand raised. I did see a question that said, and I don't think you guys specifically answered this, what volume is appropriate to hire an assistant? I'm sure that's going to be kind of different for everyone based on whether you have a team or not.
So I think it's all about like how you're feeling, right? Like if you're missing out, if you feel like you're missing clients, you're missing leads, you're missing opportunities, you probably have too much on your plate, and you need to hire. I know a lot of you guys, I think all of you have hired at some point or another. So does anybody want to touch on how to know when it's time?
Yes, I would love to touch on that first. I don't know if there's a specific volume. I'm sure that there is a formula that you could find for that. But for me, when you find that you are dropping the ball, or the clients aren't getting the attention and the detail that they need, or your marketing is falling off and you're just too busy running to appointment, and then you get back to your computer and then you sit down and you got 4 hours of returning emails and sending off disclosures to be signed or whatever. When you get busy enough that you just don't have the time to do it all, that's when you need to release the control. That's when you need to exactly, like Andrew was saying, when you need to get out doing what you do best. You need to get out in front of the crowd and, sign the listing agreements, get the appointments. And then there's people that can do the behind the scenes stuff. So I think that when you get busy enough that you're at that point, that's when you need to look into hiring someone, whether it's full-time, or part-time, or, $10 an hour, or, whatever it is, just and that was where I ended up hiring an assistant. And my coach helped me with that. I was majorly a control freak. So I had to learn to release the control and do the things that I was good at. So I think that's, when it's time to outsource the business. Just my 2 cents.
I absolutely agree with you, Jennifer. And I think that you have to find where you're comfortable. And my coach at the time had me make a list of what do I like doing and what do I dislike doing. Boy, that was pretty evident, looking at that. What do I do well? What do I do not so well? And I think anytime you're successful in business, you have to be a control freak to some extent. I think I have OCD traits, and now I think it's a blessing. I thought it was a curse in my teens, 20s, 30s. Now it's a blessing, but you have to determine really where you're comfortable. And with me, I wasn't comfortable thinking I was worthy enough to justify a full-time assistant for a very long time. So that's where you can piecemeal, do a part-time assistant and pay by the job. Like I had an assistant paying for a newsletter and just prepping my listing packets and things like that in the beginning. And then I finally got to a place where I thought, you know what, let me just put a salary aside for when that right assistant surfaces. So I have peace of mind knowing that money is always there to pay that person. And that's my safety net. But everybody has to have a different safety net. But I think there's nothing wrong with, if you're uncomfortable saying, I'm not sure for the long haul if I can really justify a full-time assistant, piecemeal it in the beginning and get a part-time person or someone virtual who can do some of those tasks that you're not really good at or that you just don't want to do.
Yeah, or find another agent that also might need an assistant where you can share them, so that way you can give that person full-time work. That's really great advice. And I think you're answering a part of Sarah Drago's question in the chat, which was, what do you have your assistant do? Not your TC, but your actual assistant. What kind of tasks do you release to them? And I think you touched on that, where you created the list of like things that you don't enjoy doing and having your assistant do those things. I think that's really clever. Andrew and Justin?
Yeah, so I think it was mentioned in a chat a little bit too, but just to clarify too, we would absolutely say that first step is a transaction coordinator for sure, because that's going to lighten a lot of your load right off the bat, especially if you're doing it yourself. You're just going to breathe a breath of fresh air and feel amazing. So that's number one. The second thing is generally across the board what we found formulaically, depending on your price point, of course, but wages are also going to be dependent on cost of living, which is reflected in your housing prices, not to get too granular, but generally across the board, 6 to 7 transactions for 3 months in a row should tell you that, in my opinion, getting an assistant is justifiable. And that was told to me, and it actually kind of was that spot. I think Andrew and I, being partners, probably could have taken it to probably 10, 11, holding in a month on the pending side, but we did it early and it was a force multiplier. So I would definitely say the transaction coordinator is number one. You can outsource that all day long too, right? That's not on your payroll. We do have an in-house W-2 transaction coordinator, but that just came with time. So you can coordinate that out. You can do exactly what you're talking about as well, Felicia, as far as a VA. You can try that route first if you're scared to commit on the W-2 side or having someone in-house. There's just routes to go. You just need to be able to raise your hand and say you need help and then be able to systematize it. Speaking on that as well, if anyone does want a full list of our duties for whether it's marketing coordinator, transaction coordinator, or we just brought on another assistant as well, if you want any of those specific roles and duties that we have them do, just reach out to us and we can send you that full format.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add on this topic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys are, so I recently had an agent tell me that I wasn't at the level yet to get an assistant. And I was like, oh, you don't know how busy I, you don't know like what tasks I want off my plate. And I'm feeling like, where Jennifer was mentioning, like, if you're at that point where you're running around all day and then you have to work super late to even respond to people's emails and stuff, like that's a problem. And you might need some help. Anybody else want to add anything? We have some questions in the chat about leads. Somebody asked way earlier in the morning if anybody's paying for leads. And I think it would just be helpful to hear like where the majority, I know most of you guys are getting like referral-based business at this point. But if there's any like tips or tricks you guys can share about generating leads, I know that that's always like a hot topic that people want to learn more about.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
So I will say, if you're going to pay for leads, you're going to be wasting your money if you don't have the systems in place to do extreme follow-up. It's really easy to get people's phone numbers. There's different sources that you can use, different sites, but if you're not going to be following up with these people, you're wasting your money. It's very, very easy to waste your money on leads. I know that Zillow is, people have their different opinion on Zillow. We've always had a good ROI with Zillow. So that's worked for us in the past. We do Ylopo, which takes care of our Facebook retargeting and also our Google PPC. We were running our PPC ads through Sierra Interactive, which we were not really seeing. We didn't close anything. And then so when we switched to Ylopo, we started closing right away. So that's been really, really good. I know the biggest thing on here right now, the hot topic is like, how do I get more sellers? How do I get sellers? Where are the seller leads? You have to put yourself out there on social media. That's mine is not from social media retargeting that I get the most my sellers. It's people that already know me, people I've already worked with, and really honing in on the free stuff, which is people in your sphere. So I would say that's probably my biggest, I'm 75%, almost 75% sphere based, but there are the online leads that do work. And I have my team run those now just because I can't do everything. So Ylopo and Zillow are probably our biggest ones.
Thank you.
I think to Shoshana's point, when people, especially when they like interview team wise and they go, cool, what are your leads? You provide leads. And I'm like, well, we do, but everyone provides leads. You can provide your own leads if you have a credit card, like $25 a month. Like, there's how many of you, when you became an agent, get like the virtual marketer extraordinaire, you get 95 of those friend requests a day, right? Like someone somewhere wants to sell you leads. Like you can do that. That's fine. But to Shoshana's point, you have to have the training, you have to have the ability and the people skills and the people work to be able to convert them and to take care of them in a way that's fitting for the day and age that we're in. So that's number one before you do the shiny new thing and ask. I guess behind there, I would say don't run out and buy it right away. Reach out to any of the people on here who are suggesting things and find out how they're monetizing it, because you can spend a lot of money in this business, but are you monetizing it? And you can be real busy, but are you profitable? So on the lead side of things, move slower. Like I will tell you, like Shoshana and I definitely had conversations about Ylopo multiple times on how we're maximizing those things. Like, there is definitely with agents in the Valley or anywhere, there's a partnership and different things to figure out how are you cracking this nut, right? Rather than just seeing X amount of thousands of dollars go out with nothing coming back. So, lead wise, yeah, sphere of influence is massive for us to Shoshana's point, and I think someone else on here had said, they like you and trust you, so they do business with you and they know you. So that's obviously rule number one, in my opinion, for lead sources. Your listings too. Your listings are a lead source, right? So that's why we got our marketing coordinator is they just hammer that neighborhood when you have success. You need to show that and billboard it and merchandise your listing. The more listings you have, the more buyer calls you get, the more instant showing requests you get if you have a system set for instant showing requests. So maximize the business and the leads that you already currently have, and the momentum in the areas that you're already having, and then look at new sources, whether it's Ylopo, like to Shoshana's point, or Facebook ads in general, or Google PPC, things like that. But I would just stress on here, no matter what we all say, I would tell you coaching and training your way through each lead source to monetize it is number one.
We're going to get to Sarah Drago's question, but Shoshana, did you have something that you wanted to add briefly to Justin's point?
Yeah, I think that I just wanted to say that if you are going to spend money on any lead source, you really want to do your due diligence and figure out, like, if you spend a small amount on some of these lead sources, it's literally just like flushing the money down the toilet. You have to get market share and spend more money, a lot of money. Our marketing budget is $30,000 a month, which is why you see all of our agents really, really busy all the time. But not everyone can spend that money. So you can join a team that does have that marketing budget, or figure out as an individual agent what it will cost you to actually have a good return on investment versus just like guessing.
You know what? And I don't buy any of my leads, but I think it goes back to, and I absolutely love the points that you've raised. And I know it's a great model for those who have the mechanism to follow up and make it a successful platform. And I think it boils down to, again, what are we looking at with what the business model where we're comfortable? If you ask me today, I don't want to do more than 40 transactions, and I'm the control freak. I want to manage my business. But absolutely, I think there's certainly a place for it. And I commend each of you who are doing this successfully and have the means behind it to do the proper follow-up.
All right, let's go to Sarah Drago. Do you want to unmute yourself and either ask a question or add to the conversation?
Good morning, friends. Thank you guys all for sharing all your input. Question for you, for some of you that have joined a team or created teams, what pushed you to create a team, and what do you do with your team? Like, do you assign people to buyers only or not? Because I'm an individual right now, but I've had a couple people approach me, hey, if you ever want to do a team, let me know. And I kind of like to know a little more about the team aspect compared to the individual aspect of real estate, or why you haven't done a team.
I think for us,
We wanted friends, so
yeah.
They just wanted to-
We don't really like
hang
each
out.
other. Yeah, we don't like each other that much, so we just wanted to have some other people to hang around with. But in reality, like, I mean, kind of the same reason that I got into the business was my first time home buying experience was not great. I worked with a friend's mom who didn't really have a ton of experience. I offered on 20 plus homes, never got anything accepted, and just had a bad experience. So I was like, well, you know what?
he went direct to the listing agent for his first house.
No, I did not. But that's kind of what got me into it. And I think for us, it's going. There's a lot of people that get into this business, and there's a huge failure rate right up front. I mean, so many people get into it, they give it a go for a year, and then they're out. And for us, it's going. We started a team because we figured it out. We've got all the systems and everything in place. And to go, we want to help. I mean, the real estate industry as a whole is looked at with a negative light because anybody can get their real estate license. And so for us, it was if we can bring some people on board and help them achieve excellence and preach over and over and over again our core value of providing a wow experience to our clients, we're helping. So it becomes much more than selling homes and numbers. And some teams can be that. It's all about cranking through the numbers, but we want to give people a great experience and help others to be equipped to do that. And just to see, like, and I'm sure Shoshana's seen it, just to see someone who never thought they could do it. And they come in and you show them the ropes a little bit and they're teachable and they do what you say. And all of a sudden they've got 3 escrows going in their first couple months and they're like, oh my goodness, like I cannot believe I'm doing this.
We have an agent on our team who's been like not even a week on the team. She's got like $1 million in escrow. So I mean, like, it's just seeing people go like, wow, I can do it. And I think to the flip side, the sad part is seeing people who join the brokerage or join whatever, like, and you just see them and they're great personality, great, a lot of things, but they just washed out of the industry because they never had that traction, right? There's so many people that are great people that hold licenses that are no longer practicing real estate, or they're doing enough to be dangerous, and dangerous in a bad way because they're still in sort of, but they're doing 3-4 deals, right? And they don't know as much as they could or should. So yeah, I think it's just we're tired of seeing people wash out of the industry that could otherwise have stayed if we would have expanded this thing. So.
Aw, sweet.
Why does the end of every one of our answers end with aw?
All right. Anybody else want to touch on teams, starting a team, or why you didn't? I know Mitchell, do you have a team? And how did you decide to be like? I know you were like, I love being a solo agent. Like, is that what's up with that?
So early on, I started out referring out to other people because I knew I wanted to be a listing agent. I mean, I knew that, marketing was my background. As I said before, I love holding puppies and babies, sitting in clients' homes. That's what brings me joy. So I figured out that, maybe I should have a buyer's agent. So several years ago, I burned through a couple of buyer's agents simply because they weren't delivering on the value-added services that I like to provide, or that wow service. So I went through quite a few. Now the way my model works is I often refer the buyers out to other agents, but I stay in control to some extent where we have regular debriefings. Sometimes I'm there when the buyer's agent isn't available, say for the inspection or to meet and talk about their request for repair, things like that. So I've learned that most of that I will refer out. I just am not at a place where I'm comfortable building a team. So it's more comfortable for me to try to do a referral-based buyer model and then work almost exclusively as a listing agent, and then have the full-time executive assistant, who she is also my transaction coordinator and truly my glue. Wow,
I love that spin on it, because it doesn't, it doesn't always have to be like if you're at that point where you can't handle the buyers, like you can refer them out. You don't have to take on every single thing. You can do the things that you truly love and that you love to focus on. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. Shoshana, I know you want to maybe say something about teams.
Yeah, so I have an awesome team here. I absolutely love everyone on my team. The way that it started was I hired an assistant without the way that I always do, which is who wants to work with me, right? Hired an assistant without any clear goals and any clear expectations. So basically I was paying a good friend of mine to hang out with me every day. And I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing? So I had her, and she was the world's worst assistant, right? But I saw something in her that she didn't see in herself, which was really, really cool. So I told her, I said, it's time for you to get your license. You know, that was my indirect way of firing her and stop paying for friendships, right? So she got her license. She had been licensed previously, but it just wasn't the right time for her. She's now a beast. Like, this girl is a closer. She's amazing. And I realized that I could take somebody that didn't believe in themselves, give them the tools, exactly what I needed when I started, exactly what any agent needs when they start. And I took that, created a formula, and now every agent on my team has that same drive, passion, commitment to their clients, and it just started unfolding. And we're expected to grow even more, but keep those same core values.
I'll give you a aw too, because that is also really sweet. And I love the core values thing. It's all about, you can teach them the systems, you can teach them the contracts, but having somebody with that drive and motivation is really key, and somebody that fits into your team. Jennifer, do you want to add anything here?
So my team looks a little bit different. Obviously, I have a transaction coordinator, and then I hired an assistant, a full-time assistant. Other than that, I was, like I said, I was predominantly a listing agent. I just didn't have the time to go out and show buyers, and I was giving those away, or I was letting those leads fall to the wayside or whatever. So I finally realized that I needed to hire a buyer's agent. So I have actually gone through a couple of them, but I have one right now that I'm working with, and it works out super great, because I can just pass off all of those leads, and they go out and they do the showings, because that's the most time consuming part for me. So I don't have a big team. I don't have more than one buyer's agent. I don't buy leads. I don't pay for leads. It's completely referrals, sphere, sign calls, whatever it is. I'm kind of looking at changing my model a little bit. I'm not interested in growing a team of 5, 10, 15 agents. That's just not where I want to go. And I'm a horrible micromanager. So that just doesn't work for me. But, you know, I'm looking to grow a little bit more, because I do have the leads that come in and the capability. But yeah, I just have one buyer's agent besides my tribe behind the scenes, and it's working out really well. So, and kind of like Shoshana said, the buyer's agents that I have taken on that have been super successful are people that just started out, that I saw potential in within my own company, and I knew that they would be a kick-ass agent. And so I kind of just saw that, picked up on the drive, picked up on the fire, picked up on the passion, and knew that they would do business exactly the way that I do business. So I could trust my hand-delivered clients to them. Mine aren't cold leads off of Zillow. I mean, they're warm, hot, blooded leads. So I had to have someone who had the same personality as me and would treat my clients and be hands-on with them, just like that. So, you know, kind of building the team mentality. It looks a little different for everybody. You know, you just got to figure out what works for you. You know, Mitchell probably, you know, same as me. You know, I was dropping those leads like crazy and flushing them down the toilet. So I had to outsource it a little bit, you know, and I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like. So
this just goes to show there are so many different ways that you could set it up, and that's a part of the interesting thing about our industry is it's just so individualized, and you can really run with it and do whatever your heart is calling. And I hope that that answers Sarah Drago's question. Thank you so much for answering that. asking that question, Sarah. And we're going to start wrapping it up here because it is almost time. I do want to say thank you so much to all of our wonderful panelists. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure that our audience did too. You should follow up with any of the panelists. They are very open and honest people. You can follow up with them via email or find them on socials to keep up to date with what they have going on in their businesses. You can follow me on Instagram. Right here is in my little name. It's @fel.modest. I do love to connect with people via social, so I'd be happy to connect with anybody there. And then I'm going to pass it over to Jenna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. If you guys on the panel want to drop your info in the chat, if you want people to follow you on social media or your email addresses. If not, I'm sure we can connect you if you guys need that connection. I just want to, again, thank you guys one more time for your time. I know you're all busy. We appreciate you being here, and I hope everyone has a great day.